Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really close look at a game that took some massive risks. A real gem from 2005, BioWare's Jade Empire.
We had Jade Empire. It wasn't just another RPG. It was this huge gamble stepping way outside their usual fantasy comfort zone into, a world built from the ground up using Eastern mythology, Wuxia cinema. It was ambitious.
Totally. And that's what we're digging into today. We've looked at community thoughts, developer insights, all that stuff, our mission. To unpack how this game could be such a triumph in world building, creating something so rich and honestly authentic feeling.
And yet kind of stumble over its own feet with the morality system backed by BioWare's signature thing.
Exactly. So we're going to look at the world design, the whole open palm versus closed fist thing, why it got so messy, the combat mechanics, which, let's be honest, had issues. And those three endings, especially that canon ending. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about bleak.
Yeah, that sets up the core tension perfectly, doesn't it? You've got this universally praised world, this immersive setting, but the choices within that world, they often felt confusing, sometimes just plain contradictory. That's the puzzle we're trying to piece together.
So let's start with that world, because the praise there was immediate. Our sources, they talk about this feeling of trepidation from players, especially those with Chinese or Southeast Asian backgrounds.
And you can totally see why. A North American studio tackling this kind of specific cultural material, there's just so much potential for things to go wrong. Misrepresentation, stereotypes. It's a minefield.
But the reaction was relief. Surprise, even. The consensus seems to be they just got it. One review we saw just said Jade Empire got the feeling right.
Yeah, it wasn't just like slapping on some dragons and calling it a day. They captured that specific vibe of old school Wuxia movies. The mix of high-flying fantasy, the specific kind of humor, the philosophy underneath it all, and of course the kung fu.
Even the made-up language they used, it somehow felt natural within that context, didn't it? It helped create this unique space.
It did, and that authenticity wasn't an accident. BioWare apparently did a ton of research. They weren't just borrowing, they were weaving together actual history and mythology to build something new but familiar. You see it really clearly in how they structured the cosmos.
Oh, right, the celestial bureaucracy. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's not just like a bunch of gods hanging out. It's this incredibly detailed divine government. Think ancient Chinese imperial administration, but, for gods and spirits. Everyone's got a job, a title, paperwork, probably lots of paperwork.
Divine TPS reports.
Probably. But it instantly gives the world this sense of deep-rooted order, even when things are falling apart. And then they mix that structure with the Wuxia stuff, qi, martial arts, and then threw in these curveballs like the steampunk machines and Sir Roderick von Fondelbottom, the magnificent bastard.
You gotta love that name, the Westerner dude.
Exactly. It made the world feel both ancient and kind of weirdly modern in spots, unique.
And this blend really cemented the genre, didn't it? Wuxia martial heroics. It's all about individuals, often outsiders, mastering incredible skills to fight evil, often operating outside the law.
Personal strength, righteous action. And the companions you pick up totally fit that mold. They're not your standard fantasy party.
Right, like Henpek Tao, legendary drunken master who makes buns and is terrified of his wife.
Or Wildflower, the little girl with two warring demons inside her. Talk about internal conflict.
Yeah.
Or Silk Fox, the princess, who's also this deadly assassin burdened by guilt. They all have these really heavy personal stakes alongside the, save the world stuff.
And we should mention the inspiration, A Bridge of Birds. That book has this amazing blend of mythology, humor, and adventure. Reading it, you really get the tone BioWare was shooting for. Grand, mystical, serious stakes, but with a wink.
But those stakes, they're grounded in some pretty grim reality right from the start. The immediate crisis isn't some abstract evil, it's the long drought.
Yeah, this isn't just a dry spell. We're talking a decade of killer heat, hundreds of thousands dead. It's an environmental catastrophe hanging over everything.
And the solution to the drought. That's where the next layer of horror comes in. Emperor Sunhai, he ended it. But how he did it?
He seized the power of the water dragon. Violently.
And Water Dragon isn't just, a glorified water faucet. She's the shepherd of the dead. Her job is guiding souls to the afterlife, letting them reincarnate. It's fundamental to the cosmic order.
So when the Emperor basically rips her open to get the water.
He saves the Empire from the drought, yes, but he breaks that cycle. He destroys her ability to guide souls. And the result? Chaos. The restless spirits, the dead, they can't move on. They're trapped, they go mad, they linger in the living world. That's the immediate threat you face, this spiritual and environmental decay, the moment you step out of your peaceful little school. The stakes are sky high from minute one.
Okay, so we've got this world teetering on the brink, environmentally and spiritually. But the personal engine driving the plot, that's pure betrayal. You're Ming, the protagonist, training under the wise Master Li. Except,
Yeah, the sources make it clear BioWare really hung the emotional core of the game on this twist. Master Li, your beloved mentor, he's actually Prince Sunlight, the Emperor's brother, the glorious strategist. And he's got plans.
And you, the player character, you're the last spirit monk. He saved you years ago after a big battle.
But not out of the goodness of his heart. Nope. He saved you, raised you, trained you for 20 years specifically to be his weapon. His ultimate plan is to use you to take down his brother, the Emperor.
Who he thinks killed their other brother.
Right. And once the Emperor is out of the way, Liar plans to kill you and seize the Water Dragon's power for himself. Cold.
So the moment you, the player, realize this, or maybe the game heavily implies it, the tension just flips, doesn't it?
It totally does. It stops being about, oh no, will my master betray me? And becomes, okay, when is the backstab coming? It's that classic BioWare trope, the trusted ally turning enemy. We saw it in Coder with Malak, bits of it else there.
The idea being a good twist hits you like a ton of bricks.
Right. But here's the thing. Looking back, a lot of the community feedback, the sources we found, they say the execution in Jade Empire was, well, maybe it's a bit clumsy, almost embarrassing, one source said.
So if it was so obvious, why did BioWare keep using this kind of twist? Was the problem the trope itself, or just how they handled it here?
That's a great question. I think it's the handling, mostly. The trope works fine, it's classic drama. But in Jade Empire, they just layered on the hints so thick. Suspicious lines, characters warning you.
Oh.
It wasn't subtle.
Laid on with a trowel, as they say.
Exactly. So instead of building suspense, it just created this awkward feeling of waiting for the inevitable shoe to drop. You, the player, know you're walking into a trap, which kind of deflates the eventual shock. The tension becomes less about surprise and more about, like, dread. When and how badly is this going to hurt?
And you see that tension, that pressure of choice, play out really early on, like in Tian's Landing. That whole section feels like a test run for the game's morality.
Oh, absolutely. Tian's Landing is suffering because this dam is stuck open, cutting off their sea access, stranding a vital ship, and you get thrown right into the middle of it. The dam dilemma.
And the choices immediately show that conflict between, like, community good and individual strength, right?
The open palm choice seems easy.
Right, you close the dam, river rises, ship gets out, town's happy. Seems like the obvious good choice. But there's a cost people forget.
The flooding. It destroys old Tian's Landing, all those ruins.
Exactly. It's utilitarian, save the current town, sacrifice the past. But it's still disruption. Then you have the closed fist option.
The tough love choice. Yeah. You basically sabotage the dam controls permanently. Rip out the Jade Heart. The river stays low, the ship's stuck, the town have to figure out how to survive without that river access.
Forcing them to get stronger through hardship. That's the philosophy.
That's the idea. It's a harsh choice, right? You're actively crippling the community, betting they'll come out stronger. And BioWare, smartly, also gave you that third option.
Just walk away.
Yep. Do nothing. Leave it for someone else. It's a small thing, but it acknowledges you don't have to be the hero or the villain. You can just not engage, even if the game really wants you to pick a side.
Okay, so this leads us straight into the big philosophical mess. Open palm versus closed fist. OP seems simple enough.
Yeah, open palm is your standard altruism. Help others, be benevolent, the hero path. Pretty straightforward. It's closed fist where things get tricky and ultimately where it kind of falls apart.
The idea behind closed fist, so that was actually pretty cool, wasn't it? Not just simple evil.
Right. It was supposed to be this, like, Darwinian thing. Strength is the one true virtue. Helping people just makes them weak and dependent. So true compassion is forcing them to face challenges to get stronger. Tough love, basically.
Which, as a philosophy for an anti-hero or even a villain, that's compelling stuff. Makes you think.
Totally. It gives a reason for ruthlessness. But the problem, and like every source points this out, is that the game constantly undermines this. The complex philosophy just collapses into, well, the community summed it up as being an evil jerk for pocket change.
Yeah, let's dig into that, because a truly ruthless, pragmatic character focused on strength wouldn't necessarily be pointlessly cruel, would they? They'd be efficient, calculated.
Exactly. They'd conserve energy, focus on the goal. But the game often gives you closed fist points for acts of just random sadism. It feels like the writers were worried players wouldn't get the tough love idea unless they made someone suffer pointlessly.
Like they needed a big flashing evil sign.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
And they ended up equating philosophical ruthlessness with just being mean. The classic example everyone brings up is that situation with the slavers in Tien's Landing.
Yes, the slavers and the girl. Okay, set the scene.
Right, so you find these slavers, there's a young woman about to be sold off, her mother is begging you to save her. Standard RPG stuff.
And you get choices.
3 main ones. Choice 1, open palm. You beat the slavers, free the girl. Simple, heroic. Slavers is maybe, girl safe.
Choice 2, the cartoon villain option.
Yep. Beat the slavers, then decide, hey, free merchandise. And sell the girl and her mother to the buyer yourself. Pure profit motive, pure evil jerk.
Okay. And then choice 3, the supposedly philosophical closed fist choice.
This is where it tries to follow this strength is virtue script. You give the girl a knife and tell her, you want freedom? Earn it. Kill the slaver. The idea being you're forcing her to act, to take control, to become capable of defending herself, making her stronger.
Wow. Congrats on being rescued. Now commit homicide for character development.
Uh-huh. Yeah, pretty much. But here's the kicker, the part that shows this system breaking down. The game treats this choice, the complex philosophical one, as the most evil option of the 3.
More evil than selling them both into slavery.
Apparently. The girl doesn't become strong. She goes, totally psycho. Starts talking about how good the killing felt, how she wants more. The game basically says, see, this tough love stuff just makes people into monsters.
So it undercuts its own philosophy.
Completely. Even Zhu, your cynical companion who's generally okay with closed fist actions, maybe even selling the slaves, even he's horrified by forcing the girl to kill. It shows that even within the game's logic, that choice is positioned as uniquely awful, not philosophically complex.
And this inconsistency must create problems for actually playing a closed fist characters, right? Especially with companions.
Oh, huge problems. It creates what we could call the companion crisis. First, if you're really this ruthless, power-hungry, closed fist type, why are you even bothering with the main quest? Saving Afterlife doesn't immediately boost your personal power, does it?
Good point. And then your companions. Most of them are fundamentally good people.
Exactly. So when Ming starts doing things like selling innocent people into slavery for a few coins or forcing girls to commit murder, realistically, wouldn't Henpicked Hao or Dawnstar just leave or try to stop you?
They absolutely should, but they don't.
Nope. They just stand there. They'd have to kind of break character and stay loyal so you don't lose their combat abilities, which means your choices, however horrific, don't have real consequences in terms of your relationships until the very end.
I remember reading that only a few companions, like Sky or Silk Fox, can actually be sort of corrupted towards the closed fist path later on.
Right, but even that felt a bit shallow. It doesn't really fix the core problem that your supposedly loyal friends will watch you be a monster and just shrug.
So this whole mess led the community to suggest a different system, didn't it? Mercy versus justice.
Yeah, that was a really common suggestion. Instead of good-evil, frame it as 2 different kinds of heroic approaches. Mercy, open palm, would be about redemption, sparing enemies. Justice, closed fist, would be about swift, decisive, maybe brutal action against evil, killing the bad guys, no hesitation.
Both could be seen as good, just different methods.
Exactly. It focuses on how you act, not just the outcome. And it's interesting, that kind of nuanced approach, benevolence versus pragmatic ruthlessness, is basically what BioWare ended up doing later with Paragon, Renegade, and Mass Effect.
So Jade Empire was kind of the messy first draft of that idea. Trying to force nuance into a simple good devil meter just didn't work.
Pretty much. The complexity just got lost.
Okay, so the story's moral compass was spinning wildly, but you mentioned earlier that this philosophical failure was mirrored by a mechanical one, specifically the combat.
Yeah, I think there's a parallel there. Just like the morality system tried to be complex but often felt binary, the combat system offered tons of options, but often boiled down to, well, doing one simple thing over and over.
It's funny, because shifting to real-time combat was a huge leap from KOTOR's turn-based style, a big risk.
A massive risk. And on paper, it looked good. You had your light attack, your heavy block breaker, your block and roll,
Right.
A, X, B on the controller. It promised this fluid, fast-paced martial arts action.
Plus, a dizzying number of fighting styles, right? Hand-to-hand, weapons, magic, even transformations.
Dozens. And there was even that basic rock, paper, scissors thing. Basic attack beats power, power beats block, block beats basic. Theoretically, it had depth.
But in practice,
In practice, Not so much. The sources are pretty unified on this. For most players, especially on normal difficulty, you could just find one or two really effective moves or styles and
Yeah.
just mash the A button. All those other styles, they just weren't necessary or, frankly, weren't as good.
So the quantity didn't translate to quality or strategic choice.
Not really. And it got worse on the harder difficulties. A lot of the cool-looking styles, especially the basic martial arts, just didn't do enough damage against tougher enemies. You ended up relying much more on weapon styles, which hit harder and often had better reach.
And those transformation styles, like the Jade Golem.
Awesome looking. Turning into this giant stone powerhouse felt amazing.
Yeah.
But it drained your chi super fast. And the big problem, you couldn't dodge.
Oh.
Yeah. On Jade Master difficulty, that's basically a death sentence. You become this huge, slow target that can't avoid massive damage. So the coolest transformations became kind of impractical when you needed them most. Style over substance.
So if the core combat was flawed, how did players cope, especially on harder difficulties?
Well, it shifted the focus from mastering different styles to mastering the stat system, and specifically exploiting one key mechanic.
Okay, stats first. Body, spirit, mind, health, chi, magic, focus.
Right. And the common wisdom, what the sources suggest, is that pumping points into body for more health. Kind of a waste.
Yeah.
Enemies hit so hard later on, you're better off not getting hit at all.
So evasion over tanking.
Exactly. The advice was usually keep body just high enough so you don't get one-shotted, and then pour everything into spirit, and especially mind.
Why mind? That governs focus, right?
Yes, and focus fuels focus mode. That became the game changer, the potential imbalance.
What did focus mode do again?
It essentially lets you slow down time for like half a second, just long enough to dodge a huge incoming attack, slip around an enemy for a backstab, or land a quick flurry of hits yourself.
Yeah.
And the best part, it costs barely any focus points.
Ah, so super efficient.
Incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
On Jade Master, where your normal attacks are barely scratching enemies, focus mode becomes almost mandatory. It's the way you survive. You're not really engaging with the flawed attack block system. You're using this time-slowing mechanic to bypass it,
Like a loophole in the game design.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And it made your character way more powerful than your companions because you could use it constantly.
Okay, so mechanics were shaky. What about the presentation? Technically.
Visually, for 2005, it was gorgeous. That dreamlike glow people talk about, the animation on the fighting styles, the environments,
Hi.
really impressive stuff.
I sense a butt comment.
Oh, yeah. Technically, it was inconsistent. Frame rate drops, especially during fights. Little pauses that just killed the rhythm of the combat. And the load times.
Oh, worse than Kotor.
Apparently, yeah. Sources from back then complained about enormous load delays. Every time you went into a building or a new area, you were just pulled right out of the immersion. Probably bad memory management or something, especially on the original Xbox.
And is it any better if you try to play it today?
Yeah. Buyer beware. Seriously. The Steam version is notorious for just not launching on modern PCs without fan patches. The GOG version is usually better, but even that can have weird issues, like making your monitor flicker until you run the repair tool. Yeah, and they even tried a mobile port for Android, but it had so many problems they eventually just pulled it from the store. It's a beautiful game trapped in a somewhat fragile technical shell. Still worth playing, but you might need some patience.
Okay, we've walked through the world, the betrayal, the broken morality, the shaky combat. Let's get to the end. The final confrontation with Master Li, where everything comes to a head.
Right. And after Lee seemingly kills you, you go on this spirit journey to come back to life. And that's when you learn the real truth from the water dragon herself. And it's rust.
This is about the drought again, right?
Yeah. Turns out the Emperor didn't just use her power to end the drought in the Jade Empire. Those machines, they were draining water from a whole other land, sucking it dry to keep the Empire alive.
Oh my God. So the Empire's survival was built on causing a drought, causing mass death somewhere else entirely.
Exactly. A continuous hidden sacrifice of potentially millions. That's the awful truth underpinning the entire Empire. It reframes everything.
Wow. Okay, so Ming, your character, learns this, restores some sacred fountains, gets enough power to resurrect.
And learns a key bit of magic along the way, that spirits, like Death's Hand, can be bound to things, like armor, foreshadowing.
And then you face Lai, and you have to decide the fate of the water dragon, and by extension, the Empire.
Two main paths, reflecting the morality system. Closed fist, you sacrifice one of your companions, bind the water dragon's spirit, taint her power, and take it for yourself. Infinite corrupted power.
Or open palm. You destroy the machines that are torturing her and draining that other land, allowing her spirit to finally die peacefully and rejoin the cycle of reincarnation.
And the genius, or perhaps the cruelty of the writing here, is that none of these options lead to a happy ending. There is no good outcome, just different flavors of bad.
Okay, let's break them down. Open palm first, the supposed good ending.
Right, you do the compassionate thing, destroy the machines, free the water dragon spirit, everyone cheers, Ming's the hero, the end. Or is it?
What's the catch?
The catch is that water source, the one being piped in from that other doomed land. It's gone now, which means the long drought, the one that killed hundreds of thousands. It's almost certainly coming back.
So, doing the right thing, the compassionate thing, likely dooms the Empire to ecological collapse and mass starvation all over again.
Precisely. Benevolence leads to potential apocalypse. Sometimes the kindest path has the harshest consequences.
Okay, harsh. What about closed fist? The utilitarian shade of bad.
Here, you go full power grab. Sacrifice a friend, taint the water, seize control. Lotus assassins bow down to you, you're the new tyrant.
But the water keeps flowing.
The water keeps flowing. It's tainted, sure, and you have to do monstrous things to get there, probably rule with an iron fist forever. But you stop the drought. You ensured immediate survival.
It's that necessary evil argument. Stability through tyranny, potentially saving more lives long-term than the good path.
Exactly. It forces you to weigh that awful moral calculus. Is horrific stability better than compassionate collapse?
And then there's the third one. The one BioWare called canon. The bleak shade of bad.
Oh, yeah. This happens if you choose to sacrifice yourself in the final fight, allowing Master Li Prince Sunlight to win and become emperor. He takes power, and on the surface, maybe things seem okay. He brings stability.
But it's the kind of stability, right?
That's the horrifying part. The epilogue is chilling. It shows students years later, standing before this giant, imposing statue of you, of Ming, and the teacher's telling them, basically, know your place.
Be content in your station. There are things you don't need to know.
It's intellectual lockdown.
Yeah.
Spiritual repression through enforced apathy.
Yeah.
And if a student dares to ask a real question, shows curiosity, a huge guard golem steps forward menacingly. Shut up, sit down, don't think.
Control through ignorance and contentment, enforced by the memory of the hero who sacrificed everything, that's deeply unsettling.
It's arguably the worst outcome for the soul of the Empire, even if the water flows.
Yeah.
And that was the ending BioWare chose as the official one to build a sequel on.
A sequel that never happened.
Sadly, no. It was planned. First is Jade Empire 2. Then it morphed into this spiritual successor called Revolver. The idea was it'd be set decades later in a more modern world where magic had been suppressed for ages after Lai took over, but was now starting to bubble back up.
Sounds amazing. What happened?
The usual story, unfortunately. Resources. BioWare was hitting big with Mass Effect. Dragon Age was ramping up. Publisher EA wanted them to focus, maybe downsize other projects. One developer apparently said Revolver was canceled on its best day, right after a killer demo.
Man, what a loss. That bleak future was set up, but we never got to see the fight against it.
A huge missed opportunity. And maybe a lesson learned for BioWare about matching narrative ambition with mechanical and systemic support. That complex philosophy needed a more flexible system. #outro.
So, wrapping this all up, what does Jade Empire mean today? What's the takeaway from this deep dive?
Well, I think it remains this incredible cultural achievement, first and foremost. It proved a Western studio could handle something like Wuxia mythology, respectfully, and create something really unique and exciting. It definitely paved the way for more diverse fantasy settings later on.
Yeah, the world building is still legendary, but it's also, maybe, a cautionary tale.
Absolutely. A masterclass in how not to implement a binary morality system? Maybe. It shows what happens when you try to shoehorn complex philosophy, that whole closed-fist tough love idea, into simple good evil points. The nuance just evaporates, and it often ends up feeling contradictory or just silly.
Which brings us to that final, really uncomfortable question for you, the listener, to think about. If the good open palm ending means bringing back a drought that will kill millions, is the evil closed fist ending, the one that ensures survival through tyranny and moral compromise, actually the better choice for the people of the Empire?
It's that brutal choice, freedom or survival, and maybe even more pointedly. What does it tell us when the creators themselves chose the ending defined by control, contentment, and ignorance as the true path forward for their world? Something to chew on. We definitely encourage you, if you haven't or if it's been years, go back, play Jade Empire, wrestle with those choices yourself, see which shade of bad you'd pick.